Well, let us offer our obeisances or pranam mantras to Srila Prabhupada together. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This fantastic screen, much superior to the projection on the wall today. Fantastic. Nice big space. And for those of you that were with us for the midday session, you'll be happy to hear this is going to be not a marathon like the midday session was. Much shorter. 2.5 hours. That was too much. But the theme is continuing what we heard midday and previously from Thursday was the importance of offering respect and receiving blessings from superiors, elders, etc. We heard many nice examples of that. And continuing along the same theme, so maybe for those of you that weren't at that session or earlier sessions, this is in one sense, it's an overview or summary of some of the main points from Canto 3, Chapter 29, Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 3, many chapters are spoken by Kapila Dev to his mother Devahuti, way back. Devahuti is the daughter, one of the 3 daughters of the first Manu, Swayambhuva Manu. Devahuti is the elder of the 3 daughters. And she married Kardama Muni, and with the understanding that Kardama Muni, from Kardama Muni's condition for their marriage was, after there's a son of age to look after you, then I want to return back to the forest and continue in his meditation and his devotional practice. So that happened. And by his mystic power, Kardama Muni didn't have to hire a construction company. He just willed that there was a majestic palace, and there was a majestic palace. Very powerful yogi. And that's where Devahuti lived, and that's where Kapila was born, and that's the scene, is he's in the palace, and his mother, Devahuti, is anticipating, my husband's gone, and soon my son is going to be gone, because he's a very detached, elevated soul. So she wanted, before he left, to receive transcendental knowledge from him. So she asked many questions, and he gave wonderful answers, chapters and chapters and chapters of wonderful answers, concluding with explanation of devotional service. Chapter 29. So that's what we're doing. And in chapter 29, there's many parts to chapter 29. And towards the end, we're going to touch on the topic, towards the end of chapter 29, there's a topic of gradations of living entities. And there's hierarchy of living entities by species, but there's also hierarchy of living entities according to consciousness. Species, and even within the human species, higher consciousness. And then because the topic is respect, and respect should be commensurate with one's position, down to the lowest, up to the highest, commensurate with one's position. So that's the end of chapter 29, or towards the end of chapter 29. Actually, the end of chapter 29, it's another fantastic verse. It's a very beautiful description of the consciousness of one who has attained that most elevated state, pure devotional service. It comes in the earlier, and it comes at the conclusion. He likes devotional service. He understands the value of devotional service. He's the personality of Godhead. So it's like, different from, but it's like Krishna speaking to Uddhava, or Krishna speaking to Arjuna, Bhagavad Gita and Uddhava Gita. It's like that. Different, but like that. So she knows, think, those of you that are mothers, think she's looking at her son. She knows her son is the personality of Godhead. He knows that she knows that I'm the personality of Godhead. So there's no concealing of that fact. He speaks first person singular, my deity form, or I am situated in the heart of every living entity. I mean, Krishna speaks like that to Arjuna, but Kapila speaks like that to Devahuti. And as you see, the illustration, though there's persons mixing in social gatherings, but there's also supersoul. And cultured persons, elevated consciousness persons, recognize that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated within this one, that one, the other one, in social mixing. So, no, this is the same theme, the respect, which is a natural law, and then subtleties of that respect, which is a natural law. On the left-hand side, we see Duryodhana complying with a law. There's a law that he gave his word. And although he's a bad person, he's wicked person, murderous person, including, his chief, one of his chief enemies is Arjuna. He's giving the 5 arrows that were blessed by grandfather Bhishma to Arjuna. We're going to hear the story. But he, Duryodhana, was obliged by his word, because that's dharma. And a dharmic person doesn't lie. You speak something and you comply. So the history was, we'll go through the story, the narration, but the history was, at one point in time, Duryodhana was in a battle with a Gandharva, and Arjuna saw the battle with the Gandharva, and the Gandharva was defeating him. So Arjuna stepped in and saved his life. Arjuna defeated the Gandharva, and Duryodhana knew it, and he pledged to Arjuna, "You've saved my life. You may take from me anything you like." And Arjuna said, one doesn't give protection to another because they get something. I do something to get something. That's business. I did it properly. But Krishna knew, and at the right time, Krishna reminded him, remember? You saved Duryodhana's life, and he made a pledge. Ask for those 5 arrows. Just ask for the 5 arrows, and he'll know what 5 arrows you're talking about. So that's what happened. So intricacies of etiquette, it's an etiquette, you abide by your word. Certainly Kshatriyas, but anyone, you give your word. It's like taking vows. This, marriage vows or initiation vows or, vows. You give a vow. You keep your word. There's this English saying. This is one of the things I learned in childhood. A man is only as good as his word. Have you heard that one before? Man is only as good as his word. You give your word. Be careful what you give your word to. But when you give your word, that's it. That's it. And we also heard, you see the image on the right side, this is a younger fellow offering respects to an elder person. Now, in this particular photo, he's not offering prostrated dandavats, but he's offering pranam mantras with a bowed back before the elderly person. And we can assume he's either asking a question or seeking blessings, because that's what happens from elderly persons. Sometimes, if one has an open heart like that, then the heart that's open to offer respects to elders, it leaves the heart open for love. The elder person appreciates the respect that's being offered to them, and they give their blessings, or they give their loving feelings, or give whatever they have to give. Etiquette binds us to a higher order, or say it negatively. In the culture of no culture, which is the West, there's vestiges of culture, but it's not a rule. It's good people live by it most of the time, and then they're compromised by some of the time. But for the rest of society, there's no culture. There's no etiquette of the higher order, but etiquette binds one to this higher order of things. We heard this. I narrated a little bit. Here's an image. I thought to add the image. A nice example. For example, when Vidura was on pilgrimage, we narrated the story why he went on. He was insulted viciously by Duryodhana in the public assembly. He is his uncle. He is his father's brother. His father regarded Vidura as very wise. Everyone, because that's who he was. But Duryodhana disrespected him. And not only he disrespected him, especially when Vidura tried to offer wisdom, he became enraged. Who are you, the son of a Sudra? Get out of here. It was insulting. I mean, the tone and the message and everything. So it's not because he was insulted. An elevated person like Vidura insults. Here's another saying: "Sticks and stones can break my bones, but names will never hurt me." You heard that one? No. Some of you have. You've heard that one. Okay. I guess it's an American thing. So he's not hurt by words, Vidura, but he was there for service, and this stubborn-headed personality, Duryodhana, there was no service for him. So he had weapons. He put his weapons by the door. He didn't say anything. He just left the assembly, and he didn't come back because he was on pilgrimage, because he was considering, I could go where Krishna is, but I'm contaminated by this unwholesome association. I need to purify myself. So let me go to holy places throughout the land before I meet with Krishna. So that's what he did. And round and around and around. And, so there was a scene after 1 year, he was in Vrindavan. And lo and behold, in a forest of Vrindavan, who did he find? But Uddhava. Uddhava, what are you doing here in the forest of Vrindavan? And then you see Uddhava. So it's really nice. This is early Canto 3, same canto as this one. And he just, asked this question, that question about Krishna and Balaram and the residents of Dwarka, because That's where Uddhava was staying with Krishna. He was like the intimate friend, as Arjuna was an intimate friend. Uddhava was an even more intimate friend of Krishna. Uddhava was so elevated that Krishna would ask him advice. What should I do in this situation? It's classic. Two messengers came. One came from Yudhishthira, requesting that Krishna come to the Rajasuya Yajna in Indraprastha, because Yudhishthira, was ready to become crowned as the emperor of the world. There was a big festival. And Yudhishthira wanted Krishna to be the guest of honor. The messenger came all the way from Indraprastha, which is near Delhi, to invite Krishna all the way to Dwarka to come and to participate. And shortly thereafter, another messenger came from a number of kings that were in prison by Jarasandha. And a messenger came from the kings saying, "Help, free us from the prison of Jarasandha." So he's got two requests at the same time. So he turns to Uddhava, "What should I do?" Now he's omniscient. He doesn't need to ask anybody anything. But Krishna he more than likes. It's an ecstasy. It's an ecstasy for Krishna to receive love from his devotees. Krishna has his own ecstasy, his Swarup Shakti, Ladini Shakti. Ladini Shakti is a principal part of Krishna's own potencies. So he's happy. Atmaram, he doesn't need anything outside of himself. And his Ladini Shakti expands, listen, his Ladini Shakti expands as Bhakti Devi. One of Radharani's expansions is Bhakti Devi. And Bhakti Devi invests Bhakti Shakti, in persons to distribute Bhakti. So all of you, guess what? You've gotten some Bhakti Shakti. From whom? From Radharani. Radharani's expansion, Bhakti Devi. And you know what? Why does Krishna do that? Because it adds to his pleasure. He gets even more pleasure when his devotees serve him than his own Atmarama potencies, pleasure, happiness. It's double pleasure. He loves. So he gives service to his devotees. So Uddhava, what should I do? Made Krishna happy. Because Uddhava's like Vidura, he's very wise. So Uddhava's answer was, there's a rule, if before Rajasuya sacrifice is performed, then all opposing kings need to be either submit or defeated. Jarasandha is not going to submit to anybody. So you have to go deal with Jarasandha first. And then you can liberate the kings that are under his care, in his prison, and then you can go to the Rajasuya Yajna. Krishna said, very good. Let's go. So that's the kind of intimacy as a for example. Another for example. When Krishna was in Mathura, and Krishna wanted to pacify, because he knew the residents of Vrindavan, his mother and father, and all the residents of Vrindavan, particularly the gopis, they're in great anxiety and separation from Krishna, so he sent Uddhava. Because he's such an intimate personality in relation to Krishna. A little confidential message in a written form that he was supposed to read to the gopis. He is intimate with Krishna. Very intimate. So when Vidura met Uddhava, he asked so many things, and Uddhava just went into trance and then spoke like a whole chapter of remembering Krishna. he pressed his Krishna button, and he just went. And he came out of trance so he could serve his elder uncle, Vidura. Then Vidura asked more questions. Although Uddhava was by far one of the most advanced devotees on the planet, when he asked other questions, Uddhava instead referred him to Maitreya, who you see pictured here, who was at this time in the Himalayas. He said, he's not far from here. Here's some directions how to get to where he is. I know where he is. But you should, out of respect, because he's elder to me, he didn't say, I know more than he does. He didn't say that. Because he's elder, then best that you ask those same questions. So he asked them again to Maitreya. Then a whole big section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, discussions between Maitreya and Vidura. Very nice discussions. So, deference to the elder. And there's etiquette and consequence of etiquette for proper observing or not observing. We heard in the midday session about the consequence of Indra not or failing to respect, which was disrespect, Bhishma Deva, Brahaspati. So here's another situation. Ninth day, the Kurukshetra battle. We're in Kurukshetra, and the battle is raging. And on the 9th evening, so during the 9th day, the Kaurava army was being smashed severely by the Pandavas. And there's an etiquette question that's being raised in this connection. And here's what happened. The Kurukshetra war is nearly lost. On the 9th evening, the Kaurava army is decimated. Duryodhana, the king, not a king, but he's acting as the leader, is spiraling into paranoia. He blames his commander, grandfather Bhishma, accusing him of holding back out of affection for the enemy. Everyone knew, Bhishma also knew, he's so powerful, he could single-handedly defeat everybody. Doesn't need a whole army. But he because of his affection for the Pandavas, he's not fighting to his capacity. At least that's what Duryodhana thought. It's not correct, but that's what Duryodhana thought. One more day like this and there'll be nothing left of my army. So he thought what to do. And that evening, the 9th evening, he went to Bhishma's tent. It's a pretty fancy-looking tent, isn't it? But he didn't come to strategize. He came to criticize. And his wish was A or B. Either you fight to your full capacity or get out of the way, and Karna will take over as commander-in-chief. You only occupy space in vain. If you don't want to fight, you better leave. So, Duryodhana was losing his mind. And one of the things that we heard earlier is this kind of talk to a superior brings devastation to the one who's speaking, not to the one who's receiving. So Bhishma Deva understood what was going on. This man has lost his mind. His breach of etiquette is severe. So Bhishma began to consider, this man's hatred for the Pandavas is so strong that he doesn't understand that I have nothing to do with this. I'm fighting with all my might, but I can't do anything because Krishna is on their side. He's fighting, at least driving the chariot, with them. What can I do? So he tried to reason. That didn't work. Duryodhana, listen, you're a fool. What does Karna have to do with this? Karna was with you when the Gandharvas took you as a prisoner. You were not able to do anything. Remember? So, and then he gave different examples, from this example, that example. Understand that there's nothing you can do. He gave examples of the prowess of Krishna. Not, the killing of demons in Vrindavan, but the Khandava forest and this and that and the other thing. Before it's too late, make peace with the Pandavas. Hating them is hating Krishna. Because you hate the Pandavas, you hate Krishna. What good will come out of hating God? Duryodhana couldn't hear it. Instead, he said, again, now a little more humbly, Grandfather, please do something. I know you can. My life is in your hands. You're powerful. You can defeat the opposing army yourself. And as if he had devotion, because he wasn't really devoted to Grandfather Bhishma, was devoted to becoming the king. Bhishma shook his head and thought, he doesn't understand anything. When a person is blinded by envy, his mind shuts down. I'm telling him the truth, but he can't hear me. He still has hope. I must prove it to him. So his hope was Grandfather Bhishma can defeat the Pandavas. And Grandfather Bhishma said, you can't defeat the Pandavas. You can't defeat the Pandavas because they're protected by Krishna, and Krishna is all-powerful. Give up your enmity for the Pandavas. No. When there was this offer of peace, his reason, Duryodhana's reason, was very simple. I can't live on the same planet. Give them, tell you what, just give them a state or give them a village or give them, no. I can't live on the same planet with the Pandavas. It's them or me. Fight to the finish. That's it. Very stubborn. So stubborn. He couldn't hear. He's at his feet pleading, do what I want you to do. That's not what a servant does to the master. So Bhishma considered, here's what I'm going to do. I've made a vow. Remember, before he be accepted becoming the commander-in-chief, there are two conditions. 1, I won't kill the Pandavas. 2, I won't fight on the same side with Karna. So here he's going to take a vow to kill the Pandavas, knowing that he can't kill the Pandavas because Krishna is going to protect them. He knows that. He's going to prove it to Duryodhana. So here's what he does. It's in Mahabharata. Bhishma took out a silk cloth from his silver quiver. He drew 5 arrows and laid them on the cloth. He sat in front of them and immersed himself in samadhi, deep meditation. Duryodhana is watching Grandfather Bhishma doing this. A few minutes later, Bhishma opened his eyes and said, all the strength that I possess, all that has been given to me, I have now infused into these 5 arrows with the help of mantras. Tomorrow, I will kill the 5 Pandava brothers with these arrows. No one can save them, well, except one person. But he knows it. But Duryodhana can't hear it, so he doesn't say it. Then he paused and added, unless Krishna intervenes, of course. So, what happened? Duryodhana, you come and greet me every morning, 10th morning, take these 5 arrows, bring them when you come to see me tomorrow morning, and with these arrows tomorrow on the 10th day, Pandava's dead, unless Krishna intervenes. So, Duryodhana's like, yay, he's very happy. But he's afraid Grandfather Bhishma might change his mind. So he personally took custody of the arrows, believing victory is finally guaranteed. Then Krishna came. Because Arjuna is, not feeling really happy with everything, because that day, that ninth day, one of Arjuna's sons, Iravan, was killed. And Arjuna is feeling very sad. And Krishna came to console him because he knew what he was feeling. And then Krishna said, you know what's going to happen tomorrow? Here's what's going to happen tomorrow. Grandfather Bhishma has given 5 arrows, invested with this energy, and tomorrow you will die. Now, Krishna knows he's not going to die. So here's what you have to do. Remember, once upon a time, you rescued Duryodhana? Remember? The whole scene with the Gandharvas? When you saved Duryodhana from captivity in the forest, he, Duryodhana, promised to fill any request you made. Remember? Go to his tent tonight, 9th evening. Remind him of that promise. And when he says, yes, I remember, you make your request. Ask him for the 5 arrows. He'll know what 5 arrows we're talking about. So, Arjuna likes getting instructions from Krishna. And Arjuna was thinking, what would I ever do without Krishna? So he went to Duryodhana's tent. Duryodhana's tent also looks pretty fancy, doesn't it? He's a king, that's okay. Arjuna walked through the enemy lines to Duryodhana's tent. Duryodhana, who had been sleeping with the arrows beneath his pillow, greeted his cousin. And they had some exchange. Arjuna, you remember the forest and the Gandharvas? Yes. Yes, I promise to fulfill your request. Ask, you want the kingdom? No, I don't want the kingdom. I want those 5 arrows. Please give them to me. I don't know if he said please or just give them to me. So here's Duryodhana, that his future of his army is depending upon those 5 arrows. Yet he realized that violating a Vedic principle, breaking his word, would invite consequences far worse than military defeat. So he held out all the arrows to Arjuna. Pretty fancy arrows too, huh? Arjuna turned to leave, but Duryodhana asked him, how did you know about these 5 arrows? Can you tell me? Krishna told me. Oh, Krishna. He despised the Pandavas because he despised Krishna. So in the morning, Duryodhana went to greet Bhishma Deva, as he did every morning, and Bhishma is asking for the 5 arrows. Where are they? They're gone. Arjuna took them. I told you that nothing can save them if Krishna intervenes. And Krishna had intervened. There's no joking with Krishna. Change your mind or you try it again. Duryodhana, surrender. No way. Duryodhana looked at him with a gaze as hard as steel and said, no way. You promised to kill them today. You'll have to kill them today. Without the 5 arrows. So, Bhishma, I will kill them if Krishna doesn't interfere. So, big battle, this thing, that thing, the other thing. There's other things he said. I'm going to make Krishna break his vow. He made me break mine. So he'll either have to take a weapon and fight, or because he promised, or the Pandavas will be dead. So fighting. At the end of the day, it became so intense, Krishna picked up a chariot wheel and started charging at grandfather Bhishma. You know the whole story. Bhishma dropped his weapons. Smash me. Thank you. But there's Arjuna holding onto Krishna's waist, trying to stop them. And then just at that time, the sun set. Battle's over for the day. Because he made a promise, unless Krishna intervenes, I'll kill the Pandavas. So that was the end of day number 10. Now comes, besides day number 11, here's the lesson. It's not just strategy, but etiquette. Duryodhana, even as bad as he was, envy and pride, understood the law of culture and honor could not be violated. Breaking his word would lead to spiritual and physical ruin. He respected the moral law more than his own desire for victory. Congratulations, Duryodhana. So here's another nice description. There's several nice descriptions. This is story time. This is why it's going to be quicker this evening than midday. So Jiva Goswami is telling this nice history. It's a very nice history of how by serving not God, but serving elders, one can achieve perfection of love of God. Jiva Goswami narrates this story of Pundarik, famous Vaishnav, who invoked Panduranga, Vittal, famous deity. Anyone from Maharashtra? So you know very well the whole story. You could probably tell the whole story, but I'll tell the story because I have some nice pictures that go with it. Lord Pandharpur is worshipped in a very personal manner. And anyone that's not from there but goes there, you'll feel it because it's very, very warm and personal. Everyone can see him being received, fed, washed, and dressed. The locals say, if someone even thinks this is a stone statue carved by a sculptor, that person will go to hell. But that's not how the deity was formed. Here's the story Jiva Goswami narrates. Once he was a devoted son, but he married, and something happened after marriage. He began mistreating his parents. So one time, when his parents wanted to go on pilgrimage, he and his wife followed on horseback, forcing his elderly parents to walk and carry all the luggage, including the couple's heavy bags. Mom and Dad carrying their bags. And then something happened along the way. They stopped at a particular ashram where a renunciate lived, Kunda Swami. Are you familiar with this same story? Yes? You are. Same. No deviations so far. What? Name is different? T-A. Kokuta. Okay, I'll correct it next time. Okay, no, I want to do it properly. So those three ladies, they're the Saraswati, Ganga, and Jamuna. And he sees at night, dark at night, he was exhausted. So the family stopped at this ashram of Kukuta Swami near Varanasi. Before dawn, Pundarik witnessed a strange event that would transform him. These three ladies were washing their cloth, and when he heard them, and when he heard them, it was loud enough that he woke up, went outside to see what was going on, and he asked who these three ladies who they were. We've come here to serve the sage. That's the only way we can be cleansed of the sins people leave in our waters. And then they said something very strong. Many sinners, horrible people, bathe in our waters. It's very painful to receive them. The creepiest person who has ever bathed in our waters is you. Creepiest? I don't know, creepiest. Degraded, something. Pundarik, why do you say that? Because you treat your parents so badly. So, struck by this truth, Pundarik abandoned the pilgrimage, returned to Pandharpur, just dedicated himself to serving his parents. No, they were happy. They wanted to go on pilgrimage, but they were also happy to see this transformation of their son. And while he was serving his father very faithfully, the personality of Godhead, being very pleased with his service, came right to his door and knocked on the door and stood there. But the son, Pundarika, was so absorbed in serving his father that he didn't even pay attention to who was at the door. That's not right. You receive a guest, unexpected guest. We're going to hear something about that also. I can't stand here. The stand is very hot. So Pundarik just threw a brick and said, "Go stand on that brick for a while. I'll come back to you. Just stand on the brick." So Krishna stood on the brick and waited. Now this is a simple narration, but after 2 hours, his father finally fell asleep. So Pundarik came out, and he saw Bhagavan was standing on this brick, waiting. Pundarik was astonished and asked, "Who are you?" Krishna said, "I'm Krishna. I came to you." Pundarik said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was you. Krishna said, "I came to you because you served your father." Krishna's heart had melted. Krishna came to him because of his service to his father, as opposed to what the three rivers personified said. He was the most abominable person to bathe in their waters because he didn't serve his parents. Pundarik said, "No, I'm very, very, very sorry." Krishna said, "Don't be sorry, just ask for blessings." So Pundarik said, "Okay, just stand on the brick." And that's what he does. Yes? He stands on that very same brick. To this day, he stays in this form. At least that's a drawing of him. And here's the deity with his consort. This is a true story. This is a story we can see. Pundarik attained perfection because he served his parents. He went back home, back to Godhead. Ultimately, Vaishnava culture harmonizes everything because it teaches us to see God in everything. And that's the theme of this whole chapter. And the absence of seeing God within everything is caused by envy. So envy of others is envy of the Lord who's in their heart, because that's the vitality of everyone, everything. To this day, Lord Vittala and Rukmini Devi stand in Pandharpur on that very brick. They remain there waiting posture to remind us that seniority and respect ultimately come from him. So here's the temple and the zillions of pilgrims that come to take darshan of the deity standing on that nice brick. Wasn't that a nice story? So there's other stories and other stories. There's hierarchy of values. So this is going along with chapter 29. We're not going to go fully there this class, but it's just a hint at there's a hierarchy. And hierarchy, to elevate our consciousness, consciously adjust our hierarchy of values. So here's a little list in sequence. Knowledge. Those who have wisdom, respect them. Those that have love, those that have selflessness, the desire to care for others. When we see people who personify these qualities, we should offer them respect, even if these contradict our current material values. Now, this may apply to Western people more than to cultured Indian people, but cultured Indian people are becoming Westernized also, unfortunately. And it's not just the younger generation, it's across the board. Respect is what we value. It tells us that which you respect. This is a little image. It looks like Musk. He's a person I value. Why? Because look at all that money this guy's got. Wow. I respect this guy that's got money because he's got money. What his values are, who knows? But so we respect that which we have value in. because they possess something we want. To understand your values, simply look at who you adore. And there are some people, we don't get our adoration too easily. Who do we respect? Every society has a hierarchy of respect. Vedic society, Brahmanas, for their knowledge. They're most respected. The Kshatriyas for their strength, their righteousness, and their determination to uphold Dharma. Modern society, who's got money? Or they have sports, or different celebrities for different people. We respect what we value. We respect the qualities in people that we value ourselves. So it's good to see, where to have respect and to respect in the right places. Here's a very nice example. Maybe some of you know this nice example. Narendra Modi was required by the laws of India to file some papers regarding his election. And the date that he chose was Rahu Kala. By astrology, he was advised by astrologers, don't pick another day, please. But he went anyways, and what he did was he went to his mother. And when he was asked later, how did you think you won? He said, I went to my mother. I went to my 90-year-old mother and received her blessings. These blessings completely protected me. Now, if you're not an astrology believer, then it doesn't mean anything. And if you're an astrology, if you at least have some sense, Rahu is, it's a serious conflict. But he did it purposely, knowing that he had blessings of his mother, and he won. So blessings as protection. We heard some nice stories about that already. Now, the blessings of elder acts like a spiritual shield, like an umbrella is a shield from rain. Without blessings, we're defenseless and prone to anger and aggression. Like what one young person asked earlier today, what to do about anger. Get blessings so you can become free from anger. That's not the only thing to do, but that's something that can give protection. Even when provoked, to not get angry. And one of the reasons, we heard it, we'll say it again, you're looking up to an elder or a sadhu or some respect-worthy person, and it helps make one humble. And if you're humble, you can respect. And if you're humble and respect, you can get blessings for the persons that you're approaching for their blessings. So our behavior in a consistent manner must invoke this protection. Now, there's not too many slides left, so get ready for abrupt ending. The experience of being small, like a youngster, they're very dependent. And being dependent for a youngster, that's good, and it's quite natural also. But what about when you get bigger and a little older, and then you become, independent? Like somewhere between dependent and independent, like teenage, that's like really uncomfortable. Generally speaking, transition to go from something you know to something you don't know is uncomfortable. I know somebody that was living in New York for 30 years, medical profession, they retired, they moved to Florida. What do you do when you retire? You're American, you go to Florida. She is not an American lady, but she went to Florida. And she's really uncomfortable. I mean, she has a nice place, this and that and the other thing, but it's not the same, and that. Making transition is uncomfortable. Once you get used to the new situation and figure things out, then it's quite okay. But it can be uncomfortable. So sometimes we had these discussions. Sometimes people they feel vulnerable. I got to protect myself because no one's going to protect me. So that, that just feeds this independent spiritedness or sectarianism or binadrik, and you don't feel good. Why does Krishna make us take birth again and again? So that we can continually remember how good it is to be small. If we weren't small, our pride would grow and grow. So it's good to be small, good to recognize our tinyness before the Supreme. We're dependent, not independent. Even if you're, a mature adult, you're dependent, and there's no one independent except one. That's Krishna is the Supreme. And there's safety and protection in this mood of being dependent or being small and looking up to others who are big. Here's a verse from the Bhagavatam, Canto 5. One who cannot deliver his dependents, you know this verse, from the path of repeated birth and death, should never become a spiritual master, a relative, a father, a husband, a mother, or worshipable demigod. Deliver dependents from the path of birth and death. So the first God for us is our parents. The parents' God, looking up to that person. Children do not need theology. They feel absolute dependency, natural. Biology imposes this. And then that means adults have a big, say it 3 times, big responsibility. And supposing that responsibility is violated, supposing there's exploitation, one is powerful or bigger or in some position above another person, and they have that authority and they exploit that authority. When authorities violate principles, the trust of the dependent cracks. He may become an atheist. He may reject God completely. Very difficult for him to feel protection of God, and he may never feel it again. In the world, stuff like this happens. It's not just in sincerity over formality. Again, this is like don't ask for blessings, attract blessings. When someone sincerely manifests dedication, blessings naturally come. The reverse is also true. When Parshuram cursed Karna for lying, he didn't have to utter the curse because the principle of Guru Tattva, or the Chaita Guru, the Lord in the heart, recognizes a breach of honesty, and there's consequences for that. There's consequences for disrespect, or there's consequences for respect. The good kinds of consequences, and that's blessings. And blessings is a kind of protection. Bhakti is a protection, but blessings are another protection. Once an ISKCON sannyasi was asked, how should we treat our parents? There's the answer. We have to respect everyone. Why not our parents? Of course we must respect them. Vaishnav culture harmonizes everything. So it goes to the Supreme. This whole chapter 29 is devotional service to the Supreme, but how to not see the Supreme, who's in the heart of all, and those who one should be respectful because they've given care when you are dependent, they've given knowledge, they've given mantra. So respect goes to those persons. Even Hiranyakashipu loved Prahlad until the spiritual conflict arose, and Prahlad was respectful to his father. We must not prematurely label parents in a negative way to avoid our duty. A Shila, with a certain marking on the Shila. The fact is, Krishna is everywhere, and we should learn to love Krishna. This is the theme of this whole chapter 29. In fact, we cannot hate anyone because Krishna is everywhere. And he particularly resides in specific objects, as Shalagram Shilas. We should start this journey the journey for love of Krishna by respecting everything, because he calls us to respect everything or everyone. Conclusion, here's Hanuman, there's Bhima, and they're climbing up the mountain to get this 1,000 petaled lotus, and he's in an old body form, and Bhima asks him, could you, politely, can you please move, because I have to get these lotus flowers for Draupadi. And Hanuman says, I'm too old. I can't move. You can just jump over me. No, I can't jump over you. Because super soul is within. That'd be disrespect. God who's within the heart. So he tries to move his tail, and he can't move his tail because it's Hanuman. It makes his tail so heavy, even powerful Bhima, can't lift his tail. You know the story. So that's our conclusion for this class. There's this nice painting of, I've seen it before. Kapila is speaking to Devahuti in this palace where they're both residing. Soon he's going to depart for the forest again. But the message is, respect God who's in the heart. There's many, many, many angles and ways to look at the same topic, but that's the topic. Respect goes to God, and he is in the heart of everyone and everything. Isabhasham idam sarvam. Jatkincha jagatyam jagat. You know the verse, the Ishopanishad. Tena chaktena bunjitaha magridaha kasya swidhanam. It's in the Shrutis, it's in the Upanishads, it's in the Puranas, it's in Srimad Bhagavatam, it's in Bhagavad Gita, and somehow we shouldn't miss it. It's so critical to not miss it. So I told you it'd be a little shorter. Wasn't that nice? It's a little shorter. Let's see, because there have been lots of nice discussions for persons who are participating. So I'm looking forward to some nice questions and discussion. Where's our microphone runner? Where is he? He's not here. What are we going to do? You're going to be the runner. Okay. She's got her hand up.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Just the appreciation, Guru Maharaj. Just appreciation tonight. Starting with you started the topic with the envy, the root cause, and then now the medicine for the envy, the respect, the way it's flowing. And today, especially with all the beautiful pictures and the stories, heart is really feeling very soft and melting.
Nice. That's good. Very good. I'll just share something. This is the third time.
I have listened to all three.
You've listened to all three, but I've been listening and speaking to all three, and it doesn't become stale. It's very nice.
It's going more deeper.
The Bhagavatam is Srimad. Very beautiful. Very relishable.
The more I hear, it's more deepening and melting. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Way in the back, I see a hand up. I don't see who's raising their hand, but I see the hand. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Thanks for standing up. Now I can see you.
College students asks, this is like bad thing happening to good people, and then how to react. Someone is in that abuse, like many cases of abuse happens in different ways. So how the victim.
How do you answer that question? Why do bad things happen to good people? Is that the question?
Yeah, connected with that is particularly if they are victim of somebody's abuse, how will they respect that person who causes abuse to them?
The second part is, for the abuser, what's the consequence for the abuser?
How the person who is victimized going to respect the person who abuses them?
Oh, he doesn't have to. The answer is simple. If you forget Krishna, you're not going to do it. You're going to despise the person who is the abuser. But if you remember Krishna, generally speaking, abusers previously were victims. The victim now becomes a perpetrator. It's like, somebody was harsh to me, so now I'm going to be harsh to other people because I'm feeling hurt from that harsh treatment. So someone else comes along and I'm harsh to them. The victim becomes the abuser. The victim becomes the perpetrator. So in the heart of the person who's abusing someone, there's a hurt. It doesn't make it okay because there's a hurt, but it's understandable. They're like an animal. The animal, someone claws at the animal claws back. It's understandable. It's just preservation, the law, material law. So that's why they're doing. But the most important thing for respect is they're not that behavior. Who are they? And if you don't understand who they are, then you're lost anyways. So respect goes to who they are. You may keep your distance from an abusive person. I know some abusive persons. And in general, it's a good policy to keep a respectful distance. And then, and from time to time, so that the person who's feeling that hurt and it has become a perpetual abuser, say something that helps them feel appreciated. I won't give the example is it may disclose where this is and who the person is and stuff like that. But there was someone that was abusing another someone. And it was pretty persistent in abusing. And he this abuser seems to like to pick on certain people and then, hurt them until they say ouch. Or until they do what he wants them to do, which is, verification that they hurt them. I hit them and they said ouch. But when his accusing is sometimes, many times, there's no foundation, no basis to it at all. But he thinks there is. So it was resolved because the person who was being hit or the victim was just appreciating the abuser. You've this and that and the other thing. Not lying, but things that are actually attributes of the person who had become an abuser. He has some good attributes, so just emphasize the good attributes. So, and then the person said, okay, thank you, I forgive you. And that was it. He stopped. So, there's a need inside a person. That's why they behave in abusive ways. So what's that need, and what can you do, or I do, or someone do to touch that need? What's that need? And if there may be nothing you can do, but if you can identify, then you don't identify the person with the behavior, but you can look to what's the need of that person, and if you have capacity to do so, touch that need, and to some degree or another satisfy that need. That's a behavior that's a choice rather than feeling, an animal and I'm being attacked and I'm going to get my claws out and claw back. It's easier said than done because our animal instincts are pretty strong. But higher instincts are higher than animal instincts. And one of the themes of this whole chapter, the Pure Devotional Service, too, is respect is the antidote for that, for the covering that covers me from being able to see the Supreme within everyone and see the Supreme period. And then when you're trying to be respectful, try your capacity, do something that's of meaningful service to that other person. It's not 100% guaranteed, but it's a principle that protects one. That's what we've just heard, the umbrella example. From calamity and misfortune and unwanted things, another abuser comes along, and another one, repetition of the pain of material life. Attract the blessings. Seek them, but also attract them. And then when you have blessings, you're protected. It's saying it sounds a little oversimple, but it's true. It's not oversimple. It's how material nature works versus spiritual. Spiritual nature is stronger. Spiritual nature can protect one from the material nature, the onslaught of material nature. That's the whole of the Bhagavatam. What to do? Kali Yuga has just begun. So Vyasadeva is contemplating, and the sages in the forest of Naimisharanya, they're contemplating, and Kali Yuga it's nasty. What to do? What can be done? These are some principles of what can be done. Anyone else? Yes. We have two hands up.
Yeah, I was just thinking of an experience I had at the airport one time. A fellow came up to me and he was really inimical. And so I said, I'll tell you what to do. Take this book and go sit down over there and read it and see what happens. So he took the book, read the book for a while, and he came back and he was real friendly again. I always remembered that one. It was a good one.
Well, I'll tell you one. Remember I told you yesterday this devotee, I can say his name, he won't mind. Karma Karuna was at a university somewhere, and somebody was for 3 hours. When I told you the story, it was 2 hours. I asked him about it the next day. It was for 3 hours. He harassed him. I asked him, how did it end up? He gave him a book, asked him to go read it. He came back and said, he didn't say, I like your scripture. I like your, what did he call it? Whatever the Christians call scripture. Your fill in the blank. So I really liked it. And he left him alone after that. Because but some people aren't going to read the book. They'll rip it apart or trash it or something. But he read it. Or at least read part of it. It moved him. Because it's pure. Purity is nice. We have two hands up front. Did put your hand up?
So Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, this was very fascinating class. Just appreciating the story of Pundarik, his serving his parents, and Krishna appeared before his doorstep, waiting for him. So fascinating. I was just wondering, when Pundarik was serving his father or parents, was he serving in a mood of saying this, I'm serving my parents because in their heart is Krishna?
Probably not. I'm guessing. But probably You have the answer? What was his meditation when serving his father? Was he thinking, Krishna is in my father's heart? Or was he... at all? Yeah. He just responded. Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah, because we hear from Nectar of Devotion like 64 items
Yeah.
pure devotional service, and we don't hear like serving parents. At least I don't remember seeing it. How, in which principle that this one will fit?
Yes. Consciousness behind our action makes a big difference. That proper consciousness is the bhakti principle. However, Krishna isn't obliged to follow rules. He can show his mercy to whomever, whenever, in any circumstance. And that's what he, at least my understanding of this, and confirmed over here, he Pundarika understood from these three rivers personified. They identified who they are, and apparently they were like angelic-looking personalities. He was convinced that's who they are, and you're the most abominable, the most wicked of all, because you treat your parents not nicely. And he was doing otherwise before. But so he had an about face with respect instead of disrespect. And the way this story is structured, the way that I heard it at least, is it shows that even a worldly kind of service, Krishna may be pleased. No, normally it's not just worldly service, it's by love. When someone has been a recipient of bhakti and serves Krishna so that Krishna is pleased, Krishna is pleased. But so this is an exception to that rule. Krishna doesn't need a rule, or that he's not a rule follower. That's my answer to your question. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
I go.
Continuing with what Prabhuji was asking on abuse. So many times people treat us also differently, right?
Many people read.
People treat us differently, wherein
Treat
they
us or others?
me. Let's say somebody treats me different. They misbehave, they
Okay.
insult, etc.
Okay.
And the general tendency for, at least I think, what I try to do is,
Get back.
while I know Krishna is when like people cheat us, right? Okay, we go back to the law of karma. I think sometime in my previous life, maybe I have also done something like that. That's why I'm giving fruit.
Yeah.
Move away. But what happens, Maharaj, when this persists? Let's say you're in office and you have your abusive boss. I mean, we can only go or take a respectable distance.
You
We
got a
can't leave
leash
the
on you.
job.
You can't go too far.
Right. So how do we take that wherein you are in a relationship, you are in a office place where you can't
Well,
just
you
leave?
have choices. First of all, I mean, I'll give you like a multiple choice set of options. First of all, don't depart from respect. If there's any hope of changing the heart of this, mean person, it's you have to touch their heart. So what can be done to touch their heart? So respect is a starting point. So then how do you respect? Depends on the situation, but see the super soul, and like I was, had several side discussions with different people about different things, and find something that person likes, and appreciate that thing that person likes, and do something that helps them further that thing that they like. You're just you're redirecting attention away from the damaged relationship between you and the person to something else that they like. Whatever that might be. Within boundaries, of course, and you fan that spark. And so then you just modify the relationship so it's something that they like, and it's not against your principles, your values, and that's an option. Some people are just nasty, and that's it. But by expressing something to that person about something about that person that's truthful, and it's not on the topic of what the dissension is between the two of you, but it's something else, and it can redirect that relationship, the dynamic of that relationship. Now, and I can give some other possible this, that, and the other, and at some point, one of the options is get another job. Go get off that leash. Go to their superiors, and in a way that's not disrespectful to the person. But I don't know if you're aware. I don't know if you're getting some other comments, because I see that this hurtful person is not just hurtful to me, but to others. And it's damaging the productivity of the company, and you're the manager. You want productivity of the company. So maybe there's something you can do because you're his superior. Tap him on the shoulder and, bang him on the head or whatever you have to do. That's another option. It's probably not the best of options because, the superior is going to tell him, see that fellow over there? This is what he said about you. So if it's done in the mood of improvement, not the mood of vilification or harsh treatment, to help the person. Ask the guy's mother. Was he always like this? What did you do when he got like this? You got any tips for me? I like him because this, that, the other thing. But, it's uncomfortable sometimes. Yeah, if there's no other option, then walk. I know people that have done that just because it was too oppressive. And they tried X, Y, Z and nothing. It's a little bit like Duryodhana. They tried. Krishna tried. And it was no. No.
Maharaj, just continuing with it, there was a situation where somebody asked me that you all talk about Krishna consciousness, you do this Bhakti Vriksha, you do this. And that person was physically abused by somebody. He said, I never did anything to deserve this. How do you explain this? And because it came out of a law of karma class, why do good things happen to bad people, bad things happen. That was a class, and then subsequent on the side this was asked, and
Do you want an answer to the question, why do bad things happen to good people? You want that answer? That's what you're asking?
We knew the concept of that, Maharaj, but like this specific situation wherein somebody asking such a personal thing, and they said, we have never done anything like this. And then we went back to...
I know, as you're speaking, I know 10 situations right now today. Not so. And they're the persons are convinced it's so. It happens. So, no. One thing is why, the other is what to do. Which one are you asking? Both? Why is it happening? Okay. If the person is not a devotee, then the natural go-to situation is something back there. Karma. One of the narrations we heard was Jiva Goswami giving a sequel from Agni Purana to the story of the son of the blind couple. And when the son came with an arrow in his chest, and Dasarath placed him on the lap of his father, the father cursed him. That's the Ramayana story. But Mahabharata. Shravan Kumar, right? Shravan Kumar. So, in Agni Purana, Jiva Goswami cites, the father was a virtuous man, and he knew scripture, and he knew this misfortune came my way because. Then there's verses in Sanskrit that say he considered this and he considered that. Maybe he considered a deity to be just stone. Maybe he saw, and that's an offense. Maybe he saw a Vaishnava but didn't respect the Vaishnava in his mind or some other way. He failed to respect. And therefore, this happened to me. Misfortune came to me because something back there. Now, in this case, it's not. In both cases, it's an aparad. It's not just a misdeed, but something misfortune can come because of a past misdeed, and that the lack of respect, where respect should be given, particularly to a Vaishnava. So you don't know what's back there. But so in Shravan Kumar's father didn't know either, but he was contemplating. Maybe this misfortune came to me. His blindness and then the loss of his son. Both. So that's one of the explanations. And here's a few more. Bhaktisiddhanta writes, sometimes when someone, it's a very nice quote. This isn't verbatim in his language because his language is really high, but sometimes a Vaishnava who is very sincerely desiring purification will have to experience the fire of ordeal to take away the impurity, leaving them only with shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's a blessing from the Personality of Godhead to throw them into the fire of ordeal, so they come out the other side pure. That's another explanation. That why it's not a bad thing; it's a good thing. Why do bad things happen to good people? It's a good thing. You can look at it as a bad thing, ordeal as a bad thing, but it can be purification. That's for special people. And there's a verse in the Bhagavatam that says the same thing. Sometimes Hari shows his special mercy. Prabhupada refers to this about himself. Hari, he's one who he takes away everything inauspicious and then gives himself all auspiciousness because he's Hari. So Prabhupada said exactly that's what happened to him, because he was, by his astrological chart, he was due to become like a fabulously wealthy person, and Krishna took it all away. Because it left him only one thing. No, he didn't need, but it was the fast track. He's a good person. Prabhupada was more than a good person. And some bad things happened. Why? Purification by Krishna's design, specially customized. And in Prabhupada's case, it was his wealth. It was, and Krishna took it away. But that wasn't misfortune, that was good fortune. And then other things and other things and other things happened. Here's another nice example. King Nriga. You know the story of King Nriga? 10th Canto Bhagavatam. In Dwarka, the boys were playing, and in a field, and they saw at the bottom of a well there was a big lizard, like a big one, but it was a dry well. So they tried to get the lizard out. They couldn't get the lizard out, so they went to Krishna, because they're boys. Krishna, can you help us get that lizard? They were curious. They just wanted to get a big lizard. So Krishna extended his arm and touched him. When he touched him, the lizard transformed into a king. And the king then came before Krishna and offered his prayers and told his whole story. That it's something in the past. And the something in the past was, just quick, He was a devotee king, but he had greater faith in charity and karmakanda rituals than he did in bhakti. He thought that bhakti is a little, arthavad, it's a little exaggerated, the benefits. But I have lots of confidence in. So he had lots of cows, and daily he would give many cows to brahmanas. He was his favorite thing. So the brahmanas were really happy to go meet the king and get some cows, or a cow. So one fine day, he gave a cow to a brahmana, and while he wasn't looking, the cow wandered back into the herd. And then he gave the same cow to another brahmana. And brahmana number one said, "Wait a minute, that's my cow." He said, "No, the king just gave me this cow. It's my cow." And then they had a quarrel over whose cow it was. And the king heard the quarrel, and the king said, "You know what? Brahmana number one, I'll give you 10 cows. I'll give you 100 cows. You can pick from the whole herd, whichever ones you want." "No, I want that cow. My cow. And you took the property of a Brahmin. I curse you. You become a lizard." Poof, he became a lizard. Good man, king, giving in charity, become a lizard. Be touched by Krishna. His faith in bhakti went a big leap. But he didn't stop giving cows, but he didn't have the faith shifted from karmakanda to bhakti. And that's our acharyas say about that nice story. Pastime of Krishna in Dwarka. So bad thing can happen to good people by Krishna's arrangement. No, it's not always like that, but it does happen. It happened to Prabhupada. It can happen to somebody you know. It can happen to you. Better watch out. Hari is still tricky. He might take stuff away, and you're crying. Wait a minute. I'm a good person. I'm a devotee. You can't take stuff away. Oh, yeah?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
I will.
So,
I knew there'd be lively discussion. This is a nice group.
So, anytime any bad thing happens to a kid, a young kid, gets cancer, toddler or whatever, is it karma or is it purification? So you said whether Krishna is purification.
Well,
so how do you explain that?
Well, you're asking three questions. If people throw three bells at you and say, "Catch one." Excuse me. It's not always. It's not a cookie cutter answer. So much depends upon the person, like you say toddler. Most of us don't have the acumen to understand this toddler in his previous life. Nor are we astrologers, nor are we, the seers of the past, present, and future, Chikalagya type of people. That's not us. So commonly it's something from the past, and commonly the something from the past is karma. But it could be devotion that's not yet fulfilled, and then the misfortune comes because of, taking away something, so that the misfortune leaves them more, and even with a toddler, so they're more in a position of being dependent upon their parents or dependent upon the Supreme. Depends. But commonly it's just past misdeed, and here comes misfortune.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you very much for the beautiful class and with the beautiful pictures. I had one question from Uddhava's and Vidura's example, the story that you were telling, where Uddhava, despite being very spiritually, very knowledgeable, and Vidura asking him questions about Krishna, but Uddhava, out of respect and following the etiquette, he redirected him to Maitreya Muni, and for the answer to his questions.
Yeah.
Now, in real life situations, what should be the etiquette to be followed when someone who is elder asking questions about Krishna or anything related to Krishna?
Somebody elder to you is asking you questions about Krishna. What should you do? That's your question?
What should be the etiquette and what should be the attitude while answering the question?
Okay, two things. I like the question. Answer the questions. But when you answer the questions, make sure that you do so in a respectful manner. Never in a haughty manner. Never. That's poison. Never. So, I'm sure, and then what you do say, I'm thinking of a very specific case. I mentioned it. I'll say the case. But, you only repeat not only what you've heard, but you have received. You can't give what you don't have. So in a mood of service to the elder, you're giving what you've received. But do it and express it in such a way, that you're being respectful. Like, oh, you're such a wise and learned person. I'm sure you know the answer, but you're just giving me an opportunity for my purification to say something that I've heard from my spiritual authorities. So as a manner of respecting you and those spiritual authorities, you're dismissing any ownership of grandeur or credibility or anything like that. You're offering respect to the elderly person. And they'll, if it's cosmetic, that they'll understand it. You don't mean it at all. But if you mean it, if you're just genuinely humble and respectful to the elder, they'll feel it. And they'll smile because not only the answer you give, but your humility. So never depart from respect. That's the starting point. And so just as a matter of service to the elder in a way that's respectful and expressed sweetly. And then you can have all kinds of ongoing discussions with that person over time, but it's always of the same mood. And they may say, I'm uncomfortable that you're being so kind and so but you continue being kind and respectful. Even if they, and then it becomes that's a relationship that you have with this person. And nothing sticks. You're just in the service to those from whom you've received and the service to the person who is inquiring, whatever their position may be. So a little example, and I'm going to end with this. Recently, I was asked a very similar question of someone who was invited to be a guest speaker in this big assembly of other senior speakers. And they're considering themselves to be, I'm not a gifted speaker. I kind of shy. I'm shy. I'd like to stay away from stuff like that. But I'm being asked, so and I'm feeling uncomfortable. What should I do? Same answer. You didn't push your nose in where it doesn't belong. Someone's inviting you. They see something that you don't see. So, and it's service. So it's in the mood of service, and specifically, not only what you've heard, but what you've received. And they're respecting, here's a wise person. It's a lady. And, she's wise. And we like her wisdom. But she's not owning it. It's what she's received. And just share that as a service. Like that. And that's a current time frame kind of thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, we're going to end. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Tomorrow, please come early. We are going to start.
What does early mean?
It's going to start around 10 o'clock, and then we'll start the process from 11 o'clock. So normally